Hey there guys, welcome to Across the Tabletop. I'm your host, The Sentinel, and I wanted to run through a list that I'm taking to an RTT. The RTT that I'm going to is called Locked and Loaded, and it's at the Coventry Wargaming Club in the UK. I've been to a couple now RTTs. I've done, in my mind, pretty well, winning one game out of three. I know a couple of you out there are looking at the list thinking how am I not winning more, and I'm thinking the same. But I've got some really close games that I attended and really close matchups. I played against the Abmech army now, and I've played against the Drukhari. Lost both times against them, but happy with the results I got from them. My secondaries for those games let me down a little bit. So we're going to run through this one, and hopefully this army will provide me more options to take the secondaries and score more on the secondaries. So let's go through the list and see the changes that I've made from previous lists, and hopefully you'll enjoy the breakdown of what I'm taking. So first off, I'll go through my HQs. I've got 2 HQs instead of the 3 that I've been running in some of my other games and other lists. So first off, I've got the Indominus Captain, the model from the Indominus box, the Captain with the Relic Shield and Relic Sword. So he has a 3-up armor save, a Relic Shield that gives him a +1 to that, so it makes him a 2-up armor save, and then it gives him a 4-up invulnerable save from the shield, from his Iron Halo. Plus, the Relic Shield allows him to ignore mortal wounds on 4s, and that's just across the board mortal wounds, so it's not just in the psychic phase, as I was asked in one of the tournaments. I proved it using the book, so this goes across the board for any phase that deals mortal wounds. He's going to be a little bit more resilient, which makes him more of the character they'll want him to be on the board, which is the supporting element. He's not my go-to throw to the front of the table. He's not a Smash Captain or the Smash Chaplain. He is the supporting element of the army, which allows the army to be more efficient overall through the game. Now, the Relic Sword, I found through the games that I've played, it doesn't do enough damage or output, being only 2 damage. Now, he is hitting on 2s, which makes him more effective, but you're always going to roll a few 1s. He's only got 5 tax base, so on the charge you get 6. So once I did the math, you realistically put 3 wounds through, and they make 1 or 2 depending on what army you're going up against, invulnerables, things like that. So you're only generally getting maybe 2 to 4 wounds through on a model if he's, you know, a character essentially, or 2 intercessors or 1 aggressor, or things on those sort of natures. You know, it is a little bit disappointing to know that he's your leader of the army and he's not hitting as hard as you'd like, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So to make him more efficient within the army and how to make him that supporting element in my army, what I've done is I've upgraded him to be the Chapter Master. So he comes in at 145 points in the army, which is, I think, a reasonable price for a supporting element that buffs the army completely and makes them more efficient within the shooting phase. And again, the close combat phase, if you can get those Chapter Master rerolls. So essentially, he selects 1 unit, and that unit that has to have core, or it could be a character for him for that sake. So it has to be a core unit, and that unit then allows yourself to reroll any of the hit rolls. That's in combat or in shooting phase, which just makes one of those units extremely efficient when it comes to the shooting, dropping maybe 1 or 2 shots overall, depending on your minuses to hit and things like that. So that's the first thing I did. I then gave him the free relic that you get for taking a battalion detachment and being for being Battleforged. And the free relic I took was the Angel Artificer from the Chapter Master section in the Codex, and this gives him now a 2-up save. When you stack this with the Relic Shield, you then bring that down to a 1-up save, which means that anything that's got an AP 1 or 2, you're generally saving on a 2 or a 3-up save. And considering you can still put this guy in a set of ruins and take an additional 1-up from the ruins, you could sit him in the backfield on a 0-up save. You know, this is a really efficient way to keep him alive, even -3 to -4. Even -3 weapons when you're in the ruins, even in the shooting or in combat. combat, you negate the -1, but you're going to generally have your 3 up armor save or a 4 up invuln, which is really efficient in that sort of concept. Now, there is a stratagem within the codex, in the supplement, sorry, that it's for Imperial Fist itself, that if you stick him on an objective, if you do use him in the last light push and you've got the 2 CP, you could give him an extra armor save while he's on an objective. Again, this brings him down to a 0 up save, and this just makes him more resilient to those shooting weapons. So that's the chapter master. I've given him 2 warlords, so I give him the 3 warlord and then used the Sentinels of Terror stratagem, which allows him to take an additional warlord trait from the Imperial Fists supplement book. So he essentially has 2 warlord traits. The first one is the Codex Master, or Master of the Codex, which allows him to generate an additional CP in every command phase. Again, on a 4 up, this is to enable me to be able to use the more, if it pulls off, you do roll the extra CP, you're generating 2 CP per battle round, which I then use, hopefully, to use one of the stratagems from the supplement book for the Imperial Fist, as all of their good stratagems are 2 CP. Excuse me. So that's the element of him. I then take the second warlord trait, which has to come from the Imperial Fist supplement from the Sentinels of Terror stratagem, and I take the Hand of Dawn. This allows me then to generate D3 command points at the beginning of the battle. Yeah, as you can see in my army list, if I zoom out, I have 3 Contemptors in the list. Now, those 3 Contemptors are relics. So the relic contemptor requires you in its datasheet that you have to spend a CP to take them within the battle. So every contemptor costs me 1 CP to have in my Battleforged army. So the Hand of Dawn essentially allows me to take those for free if I can roll a 3. If not, I can just have one of them for free, or the Warlord trait comes for free essentially. So that's the potential from them. So going into my second character that I have, it's going to be the Tech Marine. I've seen over my last 30 odd games using now the Tech Marine within the list. He really is the efficient core element of the army that goes alongside the Chapter Master. So the idea of him is to make sure the Contemptors are, if they take damage, they get healed. Now, he's not a Forge, it's not from the Forge Master, so he doesn't automatically heal a vehicle 3, so therefore he rolls D3. Now, this isn't a problem. The Contemptors don't degrade as they take damage, so just making that extra D3 and rolling a 1 doesn't really make the efficiency of the Contemptor any less able to do its job. So he is literally there just to make sure I can give them the ability that he comes with, which is awaken the machine spirits and the blessing of the Omnissiah. Now, the blessing of the Omnissiah is to heal, so I can give him D3 extra wounds back. But the awaken of the machine spirit is his main key role, which is allow one of my core vehicles or core contemptors to hit on 2s, ballistic skill 2 essentially, plus his 1 ballistic skill. Which makes a massive difference when you come up against those when you come across a board that has the opportunity of an open board and you ain't taking the -1, you can then just effectively continuously hit with these weapon systems all the time. The other thing that I did is I given him an extra relic. So I've spent 1 CP to take an extra relic, and I've taken the Eye of Hypnoth. I've dropped my Lieutenant from my army. I've used him a few, in the last 20 games. When I took to the RTTs, he was fantastic with sitting next to the Contemptors. But once you leave the Contemptors and you're moving up the board, he's only supported by 1 unit. And realistically, the Tech Marine can, I want the Contemptors to be able to be more efficient rather than a 5-man or a 10-man intercessor unit. So, the Eye of Hypnoth, dropping the Lieutenant gives me 90 points. That allows me to bring another unit. So the Eye of Hypnoth, just to reroll 1s in the shooting phase for the Contemptors, makes the army, I believe, a little bit more efficient. And so far, that has been proven in some of the battles that I've played in. Now, he was running with the Storm of Fire. I took that away, played with the standard no Storm of Fire for a couple of games. I really did see my efficiency in the shooting phase with the Contemptors drop. So I've brought back the Storm of Fire. I still start with 5 CP at the beginning of the game over my 12 with all the additional extra relics I take. So I'm happy with the balance between CP and efficiency within the overall battle rounds. So that's how I'm sort of playing it at the moment. Happy with the Tech Marine. He's doing really well. He's got an Assault Bolter on him as well, which is 3 shots, -1, 2 damage. I've seen him do really well. The other night I played a game against my Blood Angels friend Nick, and him alone he killed 5 intercessors. He killed 2 in the shooting phase and then charged in and killed 3 in the combat phase. He is a real beat stick when it comes to... I think personally that he's better than the captain in combat. Now, he is only hitting on 3s in combat, but with his power axe, 5 attacks, -2, 2 damage, +2 to his strength, -2, 2 damage. He actually has more efficiency in combat than my chapter master does at killing intercessors. The 2 additional attacks from his mandrills, and essentially being able to hit with a power fist, 1 attack with a power fist if I'm going up against eradicators or anything with 3 wounds can be really efficient. So moving on then into my elite slots, I'll cover my troops in a minute. So my elite slot, as you can see there, I've got an ancient wisdom of an ancient, Primaris Ancient from the previous starter set, painted up of course with the Indominus because he's from the Indominus box set essentially, the Indominus Crusades. So he's an interesting choice for elite over taking an apothecary. For the army itself, I think the apothecary just doesn't make up the points as well as the banner does for me personally in the way that I play the army. I'm not running a load of toughness 3 models, toughness 5 3 wound models, so the apothecary doesn't quite work the same way as the banner does in the process of the army that I'm trying to achieve to run at tournaments. But what he does have is the ability to bring back, to allow a unit once it's died, or model, sorry, once it dies, to shoot back. This came very key to me in my ABMEC game that I played, enabling my suppressors to fire back and my intercessors to fire back once they were killed as they were around the bubble has been extramentally more efficient in the shooting phase when I finally proceed to that. Just taking off a few models in their shooting phase has been brilliant. Now, if you were to combine this with the Eradicators and the way that the banner is worded, if the Eradicators do die and they are around the banner and you do roll the 4 to shoot back, the Eradicators actually, with the wording, can fire twice. It does state as you were in the shooting phase and not was. So, you haven't got a past tense, you've got a current tense. So it allows you to fire as if they were. So you just take the were part of it, the present tense, and essentially they are in the shooting phase. And the way the destructive protocols work is if you're in the shooting phase, you can fire twice as long as you haven't advanced. Or you don't split fire, so 1 target only. So I found that if I have got a pinch and I do put them on the table and they start them, I guarantee that I will put the Eradicators within range of the banner. And this then, if they do take pot shots and I do lose one, at least the Eradicators can shoot back. And again, this worked with the Abmet player as he came across and he shot at them and he killed them. I was able to take one of his planes down, with the melters being close range, and the banner being supported by the banner. So he's ideally there to support the army and allow my effective shooting to be more effective, which works out in the games I've played so far, and I like to run him. Now, the other aspect of the Ancient that I take is I put a relic on him, which is a relic from the Imperial Fists supplements, and it's the banner of I can't pronounce it, my apologies, so apologies for pronunciation. the banner of Stagander. And now the Stagander banner allows me to have core or characters within 6 inches of the banner, +1 to the attack hit rolls. So those that have -1 to hit in combat, I pretty much hit on 3s as long as you're within 6. But it means that my captain, or even my Tech Marine, my Tech Marine is even better, he's now hitting on 2s in combat. And also order my core elements, which is every single model in my army has the core keyword apart from my servitors. So just being able to hit on 2s in combat is phenomenal when you have that many attacks. So that's his primary role. So going back to the generic part of the army, I've got my troop choice next. Now I've run a couple of games now where I've changed up the troops that I'm taking, and I personally love the close combat intercessors, as my flanks or coming on from reserve. They really are an impact on the game if you can just put them in on the side of the boards, hold the flanks, because no one really wants to charge them. If you can hide them, that's even better. They hold the side of the boards really well, and they can have an impact in the game to jump onto an objective if you advance them, or even charge. I came on with when I played against the Drukhari, had them on reserve. They came on from reserve from the side of the board, charged a unit of racks, killed them, and then consolidated into a character and survived. So yeah, I found them quite pivotal to the army. So that's my 2 intercessors close combat, straightforward, all chain swords, no upgrade to the sergeants or anything like that. And then I take a 10-man intercessor unit with the assault bolters. I put a power fist on the sergeant, and that's the shooty part of the core element of my intercessors, and they will sit either in front of my characters, or they will move to the middle of the board and try and take over moments as one of my secondaries to take, trying to keep under the banner, or depending if I'm going against a heavy artillery or gun line that isn't one way going to be moving from the back lines, I'll put them in reserve. Yes, it's going to cost me 2 CP, but being able to deploy them further up the board and actually get around to shooting off with them, 30 shots, 2 CP if I can for the Tank Hunter stratagem from the Imperial Fists, which then brings me down to AP1, wounding on 5s most of the time, and the efficiency of just rolling all those dice can actually become quite pivotal. So love them. They're in the army. If you're not running Imperial Fist with assault bolters, then you just need more bolters. So when I dropped the lieutenant, I was able to squeeze in another unit with some minor adjustments to other points. I squeezed in another 5-man intercessor unit just with assault bolters again. This is more for a defensive purpose, as I want my intercessors to move up. I'm losing my assault intercessors. I'm losing the ability to hold my backboards. So again, these are just my covering supporting element, and if I'm not going up against heavy tanks, then they can go and reserve themselves and just do that. Come on the sideboard, maybe Octavius data, so the rod ability, depending on which one I'm taking, or behind enemy lines. I've kept my servitors. I've brought them back, shall we say, because I dropped them from a few of my games to squeeze in a Blade Guard unit. I've dropped the Blade Guard. I'm not having as much fun or the results I would like from them. So the servitors are back. Again, they are just the hold the back line while the intercessors move up the flanks. So that's the troops. I do have a power fist on the sergeant in my 10-man unit, and a power sword, which is just slightly tucked at the back there behind his backpack to represent that he has one on the model. Excuse me. So yeah, that's the upgrades for them. No underslung grenade launchers or anything like that. So we'll move on. I've got my 3 in my elite slots. Then I've got 3. I've got the ancient, the servitors, and then I've got 3 contemptors, all the same, all Volkite, culverins, all the missile pods. Absolutely brilliant. I can't fault the damage output these guys do. They really do put the work in. I have seen that I'm struggling to take Redemptors down. the Space Marine Redemptors with just one of them. If I can get two of them and the missiles do fire, then the Redemptor goes down. But just one alone, I do struggle to take down a Redemptor. That saying that though, if I'm shooting at Redemptor, I'm not shooting at their troops. Or I found that the Redemptor, if it's sat at the back with its plasma and it's not moving forward with all its small arms, actually doesn't kill enough of my troops or my infantry. So if I prioritize my targets and I have the opportunity to take a Redemptor down, I probably will. If I don't, I just focus on the rest of the army and ignore it. And I found that my opponents do the same with my Contemptors. If they can't take the Redemptor down with one unit or two units, they just ignore it and they just shoot everything else, which is just priority targeting, which is perfectly fine. So I think in my future games, if I come across a Redemptor and I don't have enough firepower to take it down in one go, I will probably just look at shooting at something else, just to make sure that they're limited on their movement and opportunities for the army. So that's my elites. In my fast attack slots, I've taken 2 units of suppressors. These have been amazing in every game that I've played. I find just having the flexibility to drop them into deep strike in the deployment phase has been brilliant. And just having that strength 7 for the super doctrine as well has been brilliant as well. So that's my suppressors. Not much to say about them. I've used them a few times to stick in deep strike and have them drop down to take behind enemy lines. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Yeah, I think having one definitely in reserve is always an interesting part, just to be able to maneuver some part of the board and take some control. I wish I'd done that against my Abmac player, just having that one unit drop in from behind and shoot Surin off an objective that I couldn't see from my deployment zone. So then I've got the attack bikes. I've dropped it down to 2 attack bikes with the multi-melters. The 3 work really well. I just don't have the points to be able to take the 3rd one without dropping something else. And that's the primary role why I'm using 2 and not 3. I've been using them in slightly different ways. I haven't found the perfect role for them in the army yet. Or I say perfect role. The perfect role is to go out and kill tanks and kill, those really high toughness units out there. What I mean is the secondary role, or the secondary points for they're good at taking that high vehicle out, but being able to either jump on an objective and score me primary or help me out in the secondaries, I still haven't found the perfect position or role for them yet. So they're still an ongoing, should I or shouldn't I, or could I replace them with something else that does the job more efficiently. Then for my heavy support, then I've got 3 units in heavy support now. I generally only run 2, just purely because the points. So I've got my 3 eradicators with the heavy melter rifles. I love these. These are just so brilliant in the army, doing a minimum 3 damage across the board at anything that comes in at 24 inches. They're just amazing. I've played a few games now. Again, this is depending on the army I'm going against. Anything with a vehicle or vehicle heavy list that are going to be sat at the board, these are absolutely brilliant to put into reserve. Bring on the side of the board, really close to the enemy, and absolutely just annihilate that target that sat at the back of the board that you just can't seem to get to in position wise or see. So that's the primary role for them. If not, they just sit at the board, back of the board with my in my deployment zone with the ancient and just fire away. I then have taken, this is where I've been able to squeeze the points in, because I've taken my eliminators and I've taken 2 eliminators squads, one with the las fusils, and the sergeant has the bolt carbine, the auto bolt carbine. The auto bolt carbine. Now this rule I've seen a lot of people talk about and speak about, and not actually seen much on any of the channels or spoke to many people of how it actually works, the rule wise. So the way it's worded in the book is the sergeant itself, or the unit, says the unit, if the unit fires, it can make an additional normal move. It can make a normal move after it's shot. So the idea here is to have the unit in a piece of terrain, cover, or out of line of sight, move 6, shoot, and then make a normal move back into that piece of terrain. Now, the way it's worded, it says normal. I can only imagine that because it's a normal move, you can still advance, because that's part of the movement, or making a normal move is you can still advance. And because the bolt carbine is an assault weapon, you could technically advance the unit in a piece of terrain, fire the carbine, and then make another, and then advance again into the enemy's deployment zone, or away, or backing up, depending on where they are deployed on the board. So I think there's some interesting play with these. I'm going to be testing it out, and I can't see why they couldn't advance. If you know why they can't advance and shoot and advance, let us know. Maybe I'm just not understanding the wording correctly, or the way that it's supposed to be interpreted. So rules as written, I'm reading it. I might be wrong. So let us know in the comments down below if I'm reading that right. You know, so they've got the 2 las fusils, strength 8, -3, flat 3 damage. They are my first initial thought with these was to do the anti-tank role, but I'm more interested in them now being able to score me secondaries behind enemy line on turn 1, put them 9 inches away, move them, advance them, shoot with the bolt carbine, and then move and advance them again, and just have them either 1 inch away from an enemy, blocking them in before they get a chance to move out of their deployment zone, or if I go second, just being able to skirt round and then being able to just tuck in behind a piece of terrain in their deployment zone. I also read this as well, that I would be able to move, shoot, move normally, so no advancing whatsoever, and then charge after, because the way it's worded, it's just making additional movement. So these can be, I'm finding these actually to be quite interesting, because if you can move, shoot, and then move, and those EdMap players with a 20-man blob, if you could put them in a position where you could move, shoot, move behind a piece of terrain, and then charge, not being taken the overwatch of that 40-odd, the 80-odd shots from them or something ridiculous, you could actually tie up or tag one of those 20-man Ranger squads or Vanguard squads, and force them to use CP, then to fall back and shoot. And if you can make them use CP as quickly as possible, some of their other stratagems don't seem to pull off as quickly. So I've taken one unit with the las fusils, and then another 3-man unit just with the bolt rifles, sniper bolt rifles essentially. And again, I've given the sergeant the carbine, and I know that they're not going to be realistically killing any characters, because they just don't have enough firepower to do it in a unit of 3. So my primary idea for these was, again, for the secondaries, being able to move across the board, 12 inches at a minimum, and then advance and shoot, advance again, 14-inch movement essentially from them. I think that you could put them in a position and either take the centre of the board and take oath moments, or behind enemy lines again, or engage in all fronts, having those 2 fast units, from the eliminators, being able to get engaged in all fronts and not be shot back at, depending on the train you're on, I think is an amazing sort of ability to have. So those are my flexibility units, because I'm struggling to pick, or some armies don't give away secondaries as well as others. And then, you always stop with that third choice. So being able to have the flexibility of the movement, and being able to hide them with the carbine and just jump in and out. And, if I need to say, for instance, surround and destroy, having those 2 units that can deploy outside my corner, and then being able to get me engaged on turn 1, or hide so they can't be shot at in turn 1, and then still produce in turn 2 and onwards, is the ideal key role for these. So that's my battle plan. That's a sort of I'm sure it changes when we get to the table. No plan survives first contact, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform in the big events. They're working quite well at home against my local community and friends, so we'll see how they perform. So that's pretty much it. If you've got any questions on anything, drop in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Hope you enjoyed, and tune in for more again soon. Bye.